In a single new program, the city is trying to help two kinds of housing problems, one for graduate students and another for older homeowners. Developed by the city's Elderly Commission and the Mayor's Housing Innovation Lab, the Intergenerational Home Share Pilot Program offers students more affordable housing and the homeowners some additional income. To tell us about the program are the director of the Innovation Lab, Marcy Ostberg, and from the Elderly Commission, the director of Age-Friendly Boston, Andrea Burns. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Andrea because this is not a ripoff of Airbnb. This resulted from your talking to some of the older people who live in the city.
Correct. In 2014, Mayor Walsh joined the Network of Age-Friendly Cities. And what that was is a World Health Organization framework for how to help your city age well. How do you help people put in place policies and structures that really help people thrive as older residents in the city? So as part of that project, we went to every neighborhood and talked to people, thousands of people. We had a survey in 6 different languages. We had language-specific listening sessions, and we basically just listened to people and asked them what the barriers were to aging well in the city. And this was one of the ideas that came out of listening to people throughout the neighborhoods.
Marcy, what's the trade-off here in this pilot program? And I guess you're supposed to say it's a win-win, but what exactly does it work out to be?
Yeah, I mean, the reason the Housing Innovation Lab was so excited about this idea is because we've also been talking to residents across the city and hearing that there's just a real need for affordable housing options. That we're in a crisis moment and there's a lack of housing stock for people. And so when I heard that there was extra space in some older adults' homes and that they could potentially take renters in, it just seemed like a win-win for everyone involved. And we've gotten great response so far, so I think it could be.
Well, explain the financial appeal of this for both of those parties.
Yeah, so for older adults, often they're cash strapped. They don't have income coming in anymore, and yet their homes are aging. So they need more maintenance and they don't always have that cash to put into the upkeep. And then on the renter side, there's really not a lot of affordable options in the city right now, especially not that are quick to access. And so this provides an opportunity to match those two parties. But I think it goes well beyond the financial support and actually gets into something much deeper about intergenerational living and connecting with another human that can be so powerful and is much needed right now.
Andrea, what about that? Because my first impulse might be, it's kind of old to have a housemate. Really, how does this work for people?
So far, it's worked really, really well. And I think we know that we have 38% of our residents living alone. And it doesn't necessarily mean that those people are socially isolated, but we do know that social isolation leads to a whole lot of health problems, mental, spiritual, and physical health problems that we think that this could help people actually as opposed to hurt. And as Marcy said, it's not for everyone, but a lot of people benefit greatly from this kind of sharing of their homes, not only financially, but also spiritually, also in terms of the social participation, having the company, having a little bit of help and support with something like perhaps your front sidewalk needing to be shoveled, bringing groceries in, a lot of the real burdens that people experience and the barriers to aging successfully in your home, which is what we've heard the majority of people want. So we think this is a real way to help accomplish those goals.
This is BNN News. We're talking with Marcy Ostberg from the Mayor's Housing Innovation Lab and Andrea Burns from Age-Friendly Boston. Marcy, one of the other things that goes on here is, I guess, maybe some of the homeowners might want some help with screening the people sharing part of their home. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, and that's actually a really important part of this pilot program. What we realized in talking with the Elderly Commission and others at City Hall is it actually didn't make a lot of sense for the city to play that role. And so we searched for a partner that could do that. And Nesterly is the partner we chose, and they are really wonderful. They're a new social enterprise that came out of MIT's Design X, and they are doing that work for us. They are doing the matching part of this program. They have a website where individuals go on, put information about themselves, their needs, what they're interested in having in terms of rent costs, also any help around the house. And then the graduate student or the student does that same process, and then there's an opportunity to pair those individuals, and there's a conversation and an in-person meeting that comes after the application process. But that's really intensive screening that happens in that process.
Do students see an advantage to this beyond the financial? What do you think, Andrea?
I think absolutely they do. And I think that there are certain schools, say anyone who's studying gerontology or studying sociology or studying psychology perhaps, where people would really want to do this. You know, they'd want to live in a different environment. Say they're from another culture, for example, or they're from Europe, or they're from a place where they had family. So this gives them a sense of living almost with a family member, and gives you a sense of what it's like to live in the United States, just for an example. And I think there's an increasing emphasis on intergenerational living, which is really the way that we all used to live, but you know, with an increasingly segregated society in terms of age as well, we are not getting that opportunity. So I think there are a lot of young people who really benefit from living with an older person and sharing their wisdom and learning from them and giving back to them, especially if they're in a field that is somewhat related.
Marcy, any advice for features about the kind of home? And I'm talking about building features that would make this work better.
Yeah, I really think it can be any home that has a little bit of extra space. So if there's an extra bedroom, then the home works. We had a chance to go visit one of the pairs, and it was just a wonderful opportunity, and it emphasizes a lot of what we've been talking about. So the woman has been in this home since 1946, and it's been in her family. It needs some repairs. She's had it for a long time. And she said, when I met her, she said, you know, it's time for my home to start pulling its own weight. But then she also talked about the unexpected benefits of getting to live with this student who was coming from Greece and getting to share learnings and learn about his program and his interests. And then the student on the other side talked about how he wanted to live in a place where he could be outside of the academic bubble and see the place from the host's eyes.
Finally, if homeowners or students would like to get some more information, what's the best place to go online for that?
So they should go to the Nesterly website, www.nesterly.io.
Thank you both very much, Marcy Ostberg and Andrea Burns. We'll have more news in just a moment.